Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled "Neighbors impersonated me, trespassed and repainted my house while I was on vacation." I think it is reasonable to be excited to go on a vacation after working tirelessly for months on end. I think it is even more reasonable to enjoy your vacation and the memories you made while on vacation. Hell, it is even reasonable to be excited to come home and sleep in your own bed. Except that the last time I was on vacation and I came home, my neighbors had illegally painted my entire house. And no, I'm not lying. I hope you have some time to sit back and relax, because boy, do I have a story for you today. So let us start off with some background information that is vital to the story. I have lived in my neighborhood for quite some time now with my wife. The house we bought and live in was painted yellow when we bought it, and the color never really bothered us, so we just kept it. We did live in a pretty warm climate, and most of the houses had some sort of bright color to them. Ours was just bright yellow. I never thought that it would be a reason for a neighborhood feud. So, flash forward to several years after moving into our house, another newlywed couple moves in right next door to us. Right from the start, they seemed like entitled snobs who were not afraid to let their inner Karen out. The first couple of days after meeting them, they started making snide comments about the color of our house. I thought that it was weird a color of the house would bother them so much, but boy, was I about to learn that their snarky remarks were just the beginning. Shortly after the passive-aggressive comments about the color of my house, they just started straight up asking and demanding that we repaint the house. The wife had even told my wife that they did not want to live next to a house that was as yellow as piss, as they put it. Well, why did you move in next to us then? I would like to take this time to defend the color of my house. It was not pea-colored, it was yellow like a cartoon sun. Okay, now that that is out of the way, flash forward to a couple of more weeks and things got even weirder. Over the course of the next few weeks, they did everything in their power to try and get us to repaint our house. They tried forming an HOA in hopes that they could enforce standards such as everyone having the same colored house, and then we would have to paint our house accordingly. Everyone in the neighborhood disagreed with them, and this even furthered the feud because all of the other neighbors were starting to really hate them. At one point, they had even called 911. What the hell? I cannot even imagine their thought process. Did they also call 911 when they wanted to complain about local restaurants or shops? I mean, seriously. Obviously, the police could not charge us with anything. The police told them to go pound sand. When you have annoyed and pissed off even your local police department, it is time to rethink your life choices. Anyways, things have been quiet from them for several weeks after this. We had thought maybe since they could not get the police to do anything, they had finally given up. But we learned that was false hope. See, during this time my wife and I had gone on vacation. My wife and I were gone for about a week, and during the time we were gone, our neighbors took advantage of our absence and impersonated us so that they could have our house repainted. And yes, you read that right. My neighbors impersonated us and convinced a painting company that they were us so that they could paint our house a color of their liking. We were coming back from vacation, and when we came home, our house was painted this ugly and dull grey color. It did not even match with the rest of the neighborhood. We had almost missed it because we were so used to that yellow color popping right out. I was furious. I already knew that this was our neighbor's act, but upon further investigation, I was able to prove that it was our neighbor's. Our neighbor across the street, who had been collecting our mail, had tried taking pictures of a painting company while we were gone, but the signal was not extraordinarily strong where we were, so we never got them. Another neighbor also made a statement that said she witnessed a couple standing on the sidewalk talking with the painters. I mean, how crazy do you have to be, seriously? I tried knocking on their door, more like pounding to be honest, but just like magic, they had conveniently disappeared. So, my wife and I decided to take them to court. Upon even further investigation, our neighbors had told the painting company that they were going on vacation and thought this was the perfect time to paint their house since they would not be home. The painters believed them because our neighbors showed them pictures of our house from the street and sidewalk. Unfortunately, we could not get them for trespassing. Based off of the photos from our neighbors and the photos they gave the painters, they never stepped foot on our property. The painters could not be charged either because they had permission from what they thought were the owners. Not that I was really mad at the painters anyway, they were just trying to do their job. However, we were able to successfully charge them and win with false impersonation charges for pretending to be us and also property damage. I was hoping that they would move out after this, but props to them for having more balls than I thought and staying in the neighborhood. And also, in order to get even more revenge, I used the lawsuit money to repaint our house back to the yellow color. I also spray painted my patio furniture the same color, oh, and also my window frames. In addition, I also got some bright yellow lawn flamingos too. The neighbors don't talk to us or acknowledge us at all anymore. And yeah, ripe stars, I guess just some people really don't care about their reputation or whether or not people hate them. Why would you want to live in a neighborhood where seemingly everybody hates you and is against you? Have you ever experienced neighbors that were pretty much universally hated by everybody in the neighborhood? Let us know in the comments what happened to them, whether they stayed or not. And by the way, while you're at it, I would also really appreciate if you could like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, Good HOA Ending. I was talked into running a new HOA by the builder/realtor. He gave me a discount on the final sale price of my home if I agreed to get it up and running after the last home was finished in our 100 home neighborhood. And by the way, ripe stars, that kind of sounds like a deal with the devil. Sell your soul and you will get a discount. Would you have done it? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, everything went well for a couple of years. Fees and duties of the HOA were set and the boilerplate rules were accepted and passed by the newly elected board. I was elected secretary-treasurer and only about half of the neighborhood paid their dues, but everyone was fine with that because all the bills were met and the common property was maintained and insurance paid. The board agreed we would keep billing folks, but no one was really up to the collection process. Then Mrs. Karen moved in next door. She decided that all of the covenants would be met and that all the dues would be paid, or else. She started attending meetings and demanded to see the books. No problem, she started photographing the income and expense ledgers and went to work. She was a realtor and teacher and knew exactly what to do to turn things around. She took it upon herself to file liens on all delinquent homes and started handing out fines for non-conforming home issues, something that HOAs can do in our state. It cost her a small fortune in filing fees and she wanted to be reimbursed. My phone started ringing off the hook and some threatened to sue me personally. It was a hard no on paying Mrs. Karen for doing all her due diligence. She was dinging homeowners for things like grass height and type, and she actually hired a consultant to test and confirm the types of grass seed used in some yards she did not like the look of. When elected, the board all agreed that the rules were very restrictive and the fees were way too high, considering that maintenance expenses consisted of care for small pond and insurance for said pond, around $1,500 per year. The elected board decided to take a laissez-faire management approach. The accounts were more than well funded and filing a lien on your neighbor makes for a crappy neighborhood. Add to that the initial covenants and rules as provided to by the builder were over the top ridiculous, even including interior window coverings and so on. everyone that crossed Mrs. Karen got written up by her. If she did not like the color of your shutters, get a fine. She did not like the fact your daily driver had a ladder rack, get a fine. She essentially started her own shadow HOA, placed liens on people's homes and sent out around $5,000 worth of fines. She even dinged members of the board, myself included. Of course, an uproar followed with me caught in the middle. It was pretty tense at times, particularly with neighbors who were in the process of selling their homes and had difficulty closing because of the liens. The board got together and decided to call for a meeting to get a quorum and make some changes. However, we could not dissolve the HOA, but we could change it if the majority of homeowners agreed. And we agreed. The meeting was held in my garage and called to order, as agreed ahead of time, and with the help of our friendly resident attorney, a new listing of covenants and rules were proposed and passed. This version was virtually neutered. Just about anything that would appeal to a vindictive Karen was eliminated. The HOA was basically reduced to a bill payment entity with little to no say over what your neighbor could do or say about your home. Miss Karen made a motion that she be reimbursed for her time and expenses while she cleaned up this show, but she was denied. We figured out which homes she filed on and had the lawyer rescind the liens. Our friend the lawyer also looked into having her charged with something or other for acting on her own to do those things, but I never heard if anything came of that. I had the pleasure of returning uncashed violation checks and ended up stumbling home afterwards due to some neighbors insisting that I have a drink to celebrate. I have since moved on, and last I heard, Miss B was still taking long walks around the neighborhood with phone in hand, taking pictures of crabgrass, I reckon. I drove by the other day and the neighborhood looked great, as did the common area. FHOA. But by the way guys, I'm still curious if you ever found your dream home for sale, and in this case dream meaning that it would be super cheap and exactly fits your needs. However, the only caveat is that it is inside a crazy HOA neighborhood. If you had the money, what would you do? Would you accept or decline the offer? Let me know in the comments. The next one is titled, "Stupid Neighbor Called the Cops on Me and Regrets It." My husband, male 43, and I, female 30, recently moved into a house that was previously owned by his parents. The neighbors, we will call the couple JK on one side, were friends with his folks. Small description of the layout: our garage door points to the side, so it points towards JK's house. It happens that their bedroom window is facing the garage door. Above our garage door is a small light that illuminates our driveway. Both my property and my neighbors are on a full acre in the county outside city limits. They have complained about that light since his parents owned the place. They have complained about quite a few things since we have moved in, and for the first bit we tried to be considerate. The motion light was a big one that they would constantly bring up, saying it was shining in their bedroom window. We had a large pine tree that blocked it for a while on our side of the property line. JK came to us asking to cut down the tree because the overhanging branches were making it difficult to pull vehicles through on their property. In an attempt to be good neighbors, we agreed, so they cut the tree down. But in doing so, they left the trunk, saying it was on us to deal with it. But because the tree was cut down, now they are complaining more about the light. We have not allowed that to make us change it. So then they had decided to put up a privacy fence. Okay, sure, it means we have less to deal with from them. This winter there have been a number of reports of people stealing things from cars. And on top of that, we got chickens. So we set up a ring camera / motion light that faces the back of the property. The light only comes on when someone is in the driveway or near the chicken coop. However, by pointing it at the back of our house, their window is also in the path of the light. It is just in the fringe view of the camera, so I cannot imagine that much light is getting in, and with the angle, it is also on our bedroom window almost directly. It has not troubled us at all since we installed it. It had been in there for 3 days when we got a text from JK saying challenge accepted and threatening to get the brightest light they can find and pointing it at our window. A hollow threat, there is no way they could. Now, however, it has been a little over a month. The neighbor was true to his word and put a light on a 12-foot pole with a light on top. I took pictures, it is right up against a fence he built pointing directly onto our property. He did his best to angle it in our window, but missed. Not that we told him that, it did not really trouble us. He took it down about 4 days later, never saying a word. Then they called the sheriffs on us. After sending progressively more aggressive and insulting text messages, always from the husband, Jay, they resorted to calling law enforcement. The officers showed up very polite and we talked with them, showing them the light in question, and they agreed that its placement was fine. We mentioned the text messages and the officers asked to see them. My husband showed them his phone and the officers' entire demeanor changed. They apologized for interrupting dinner and said they would go next door and talk to the neighbors. We got a text the next day from the wife, Kay. It was finally what we wanted. According to her, she knew nothing about her husband's behavior. She had been out of town when he put up the spotlight and made him take it down when she got home. She did not know about the text messages he had been sending. The sheriffs told them both that my husband and I have enough to make a real harassment case against them. She would like a chance to talk face to face though. She spoke with my husband today and it genuinely seems sorted. Who would have thought them calling the police would actually help us? And the next one is titled, Should Not Have Ruined My Flowers. I just read a post on here about the guy/girl who gave their neighbor flowers as petty revenge, and it reminded me of when I used to rent a house with roommates in college. My landlords were an older couple who were greedy and extremely rude for no reason. When we first moved in, it was included in our lease that our lawn would be mowed by our landlord. Second month of living at the house and they covered the entire front lawn with wood chips and it looked hideous. Of course, they did this to avoid mowing the front lawn, and it is their property after all. Okay, whatever, but cue to several months later, including shady situations with our slumlords, like them coming inside the house unannounced, refusing to acknowledge serious issues in the house like black mold, wobbly stair rails, air vent leaking, etc. Oh honey, I could go on. They even tried to scam us out of a couple $100. Okay, but I guess you get it. They suck. Anyway, that spring semester I got a part-time job working as a plant merchandiser. I got to keep some bulbs and decided to grow some tulips. I decided to grow them close to the sidewalk since it was the only place that was not covered in wood chips. April comes strolling and they grew to my surprise. I was so happy and so were my roommates since they were nice to look at. Well, it was until my mean slumlord cut them all to give to his wife. How do I know this? Because I saw him do it through our giant window in our living room, and when I went to go pay my rent at their house, I saw my tulips in a vase on their dining room table. I knew when my lease was up I wanted to go out with a bang. Harmless one of course, so I could get my deposit back. I learned at my new job that mint is super invasive and hard to get rid of, so I brought back some mint seeds and a bag of grass seeds from my job and spread it all over the weathered wood chips that were disappearing from the seasons changing. The next time I went to pay rent at their house, I also sneakily sprinkled it into their yard. I knew this would bother them since they kept their own yard pristine and would constantly come to ours to check on it. They told us one time we could not have our carved pumpkins out on the porch, this was October, because it will attract the squirrels and promote them to leave their acorns on the front lawn. Like, okay lady, it's the outdoors, but have fun with the mint though. And the next one is titled, Always Document Everything. This story begins in the summer. The wife and I moved from my mother's basement to a fantastic apartment just down the road from my university. The building is mega soundproofed, the neighbors do piano lessons, lots of people with kids and dogs, and we cannot hear any of it, with the exception of one dog from across the hall. The neighbors across the hall are retired, perhaps their senior father lived with them, I'm not sure on that detail. But they were enjoying their retirement, going out all of the time for hours at a time, and whenever they left, their dog would bark the entire time. An 8 to 12 hour continuous barking session was not uncommon, typically 3 to 7 days a week. Now, a few details about myself. I'm a dog person, I love them, and I understand this little guy is probably just anxious without his owners. I'm a student as mentioned before, and I did not mind listening to the dog while school was out for summer, but come fall this problem needed to be dealt with. And lastly, I am incredibly patient and kind to a fault. I also look like a strange combination of Dave Grohl and Hank Hill, but that is more of a bonus fact. So after 2 weeks of this listening to this dog, I put a sticky note on their door that read something along the lines of, "Hey, just so you know, your dog barks constantly when you're not home." Of course nothing changes, so after another 2 weeks I put in a single formal complaint that goes something along the lines of, "Hey, last thing I want to do is cause trouble, but this dog has been barking for a month and it is really annoying. I hope we can all come to a peaceful solution." Over the next week we notice a drastic change. The dog no longer barks, it still whines loudly, which is still crazy annoying, but an improvement. Also the noise reduces to about 2 to 6 hours a day, maybe 3 days a week maximum. Turns out they got anxiety meds for the dog. Regardless, I am happy, the problem seems to be slowing and perhaps it won't be so loud come school. A month and a bit goes by and I am writing a timed online quiz for a class in my home, and this dog is barking like it used to when we first moved in. I cannot concentrate and it is driving me insane. I leave my quiz and leave another sticky note, this one along the lines of, "Not a complaint, just letting you know, your dog was crazy loud tonight." I am just about done with my quiz when there is a knock on my door. I answer the door and lo and behold, the lady from across the hall holding my note, looking pissed. She asks me if I wrote the note. Yes. Do I understand how frustrating that is? Well, I sure understand frustration, so yes. She is screaming at this point. I ask if she would like to have a calm conversation. And by the way guys, I love when you ask angry people to have a calm conversation, because some will just answer, "No, I don't want to have a calm conversation." Anyway, she talks over me to say how unfair it is that I would treat her dog like that, and I ask again if she would like to have a calm conversation. She talks over me to tell me how much anxiety pills are. Would you like to have a calm conversation? She talks over me again to tell me that her poor dog she leaves at home 8 hours a day has to wear a shock collar because of me. I decided we were not having a calm conversation, so I said, "Listen here, you piece of work. You started this. All I wanted is to live in peace." I take a step into my apartment and she steps towards me as if she is entering. I'm pretty sure I literally hit her with the door when I slammed it in her face. All I know for sure is something stopped her in the middle of screaming the word "a-hole" at me. I come back to my computer and see that the quiz timed out while I was arguing with the neighbor. I failed to submit it and got a 0. Screw her. It is now Friday night and I am pissed, so I start the most meticulous backpedaling. First I make a complaint about her interrupting my homework late at night to yell at me, and next I move on to texts from my wife. The neighbors had a habit of slamming the door, which I texted my wife about. I checked the time signature on the texts, find the reference code for the applicable hallway camera, hoping they slammed the door from the outside, and email a single detailed noise complaint. Next slammed door text was another separate email as a separate noise complaint. I remember once they parked in our spot when we came home from Costco. So I do what any sane, reasonable person would do and check the credit card charge time stamp. Separate email parking complaint, noting the 2 camera codes that can see our parking spot, and damn, I wasted so much time. I print off my original email complaint, highlight the words "peaceful resolution" and write the words "you screwed up" at the bottom. The next day their dog is barking for an hour, so I record the noise from the bedroom, kitchen and hallway, and while in the hallway I give the security camera a little thumbs up. I must have looked like a lunatic. I do this every day, multiple times per day. I called by law after 10 PM as there is a city law about noise at that time. Turns out by law in my city has no authority within the apartment buildings, however, the bylaw officer let me know the RCMP can issue tickets for noise. So I submit a police complaint and now a police file is open. By the end of the week I had called the non-emergency line of the RCMP twice, had her ticketed once and filed 17 individual complaints to my building manager. And I carried on every day, video recordings, audio recordings, witnesses in the hallway, contractor comes in to fix something on the 3rd floor, him and I get talking and he agrees to smile for the camera while I record the dog barking way off down the hallway. Today I was informed that they have been evicted. And the next one is titled, Mean Lady Hates Everyone, Especially Us. We buy her house after she failed to pay her debt. The house we live in was built at the same time as hers. My parents were often at the construction site and helped if they could. The strange lady was nice to us at the beginning, but that changed soon. This happened around Christmas 2017. We have a neighbor who is very unpopular in our neighborhood. She is well known for harassing people who use the public path at the left side of her house. The path is 1 out of 3 to reach the public playground behind her house. If someone uses the path, she would scream at them that this is her path on her private property, which is wrong. Sometimes she would close the path with a red and white plastic chain and won't let anyone use the path. She would scream at kids on the playground when they were loud at daytime. She always has her shutters almost down so she can stalk the people on the street and stay unseen. If some kid's ball landed in her garden, she would bring it to the kids and destroy it with a knife right in front of them. All kids knew this and would run by her house if they wanted to go on the playground. When the neighbors' kids were playing in the winter outside in the snow, she would call the CPS equivalent in my country and tell them that they were locked outside by their parents as a punishment. If someone walked by her house at night, she would often call the police due to a noise complaint. She was known by everyone in our neighborhood as the witch. But she hated my family in particular. We lived right beside her house. Our houses shared one wall. When me and my sister were young, we would use the swing in our garden or jump on our trampoline. She would regularly file noise complaints and often harass me and my sister when we were alone in our garden. If my parents heard her screaming swear words at us from the 1st floor of her house, they would yell back. If me or my sister walked on the path by her house, she would scream at us. We used the path daily on our way to school. One time when I came home from school, she was in her car with the trunk on the sidewalk. When I walked by the back of her car, she howled the engine and the dark exhaust hit me. Almost every night she would hit the shared wall with something to wake us up. Sometimes she rings on our door and tried to make us go to the other neighbors to complain about small things. We often had lawsuits with her. One time because her trees grew 2 meters over the border, another time because she built a fence by sticking bamboo mats in the dirt and tearing it down the next day and telling the police we destroyed her wooden fence. We won all lawsuits against her because my uncle, he's teaching law school, gave us good advice on how to deal with her and named lawyers he knew were good. She never paid the workers who repaired things at her house and the electrical and water bills. When her old car broke down, she did not pay the car mechanic and never got her car back. She was in debt and had a mortgage on her house. When the foreclosure came, we were at the court and bought her house. She was with us in the courtroom when the auction was and tried to buy her own house, but was not allowed because she could not provide proof that she has enough money. We bought her house where she lived for 20 plus years in front of her. We bought it because my parents were at the construction of her house and knew the workers did a great job at building it. We renovated it when she left, we repainted all rooms, renewed the insulation and put everywhere where no tiles were new wooden floor. My grandparents will be moving in her old house this fall. And yeah, ripe stars, unfortunately we have reached the end of the video. And someone just woke up like right when I stopped recording, I guess because she heard the chair screeching or something. And yeah, if you're wondering why she's wearing this again, so basically we found out, or actually some of you already saw it, there was a little black spot under her chin And that black spot, we thought at first maybe it's a pimple or what they call mold in Thai. I guess it's not really mold, but just when the weather is really hot, like right now, sometimes it's like 38, 39 degrees. And it feels like 40 plus basically. And yeah, then the cat, I don't know, get like a wet spot or something. But anyway, it's not that. It's just that she's like trying to scratch her ears. And sometimes she's just scratching her chin then. And yeah, she should not do that, and that's why at the moment she's wearing this again. Poor Disney. Oh, do you see? She liked the belly rubs. Disney. Yeah, she really likes when I'm recording, that she can listen to me and she'll be on the floor. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you again tomorrow. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.